In 1982, a triple homicide rocked the small town of Waco, Texas. Previously known as a quiet little town just south of the booming city of Dallas until it was put on the map by the gruesome murders of 3 innocent teenagers from the Methodist home. On July 13, 1982, 2 fishermen discovered the bodies of Jill Montgomery, Raylene Rice, and Kenneth Franks in Spiegelville Park near Lake Waco. All 3 victims had been repeatedly stabbed, and both of the women's throats had been slashed. There was also evidence that the women had been sexually assaulted. Frank's body was found propped against a tree with sunglasses over his eyes. On the grisly night the bodies were found, Patrol Sergeant Truman Simons knelt beside each of the victims' bodies and vowed to find their killers. His hunt soon became his obsession. Risking family and his job, Simons plunged into a sordid web of murder for hire, mistaken identity, drugs, and illegal aliens. Within just a few short days, the first arrest in the case was made. Munir Muhammad Deeb, the owner of a local gas station, was known to have had a contentious relationship with Kenneth Franks. The two had engaged in verbal confrontations on multiple occasions. Following the murders, he had even commented to 2 young women that he committed the murders. After one of the women reported this comment to the police, Deeb was quickly arrested and submitted to a polygraph test, which he passed. Subsequently, Deeb was released for lack of evidence. The case languished for nearly a year until the work of Simons and others had produced enough evidence to again arrest Deeb and 3 alleged accomplices in the plot. Deeb had had a life insurance policy for one employee at his convenience store who bore a striking resemblance to Jill Montgomery. The police hypothesized that Deeb had hired David Wayne Spence to murder her, and that Spence and his 2 friends, Anthony and Gilbert Melendez, had seen the victims and mistaken Montgomery for the target. They speculated that the other 2 victims had been murdered because they were witnesses. Deeb, Spence, and the Melendez brothers were all indicted late in 1983. District Attorney Vic Feasel, whose office had been instrumental in continuing to pursue new evidence in the case, would manage the prosecution against the accused. Spence and both Melendez brothers were, at the time, already serving prentice sentences for various crimes. The evidence against the men largely consisted of testimony provided by other inmates, who claimed that the defendants had admitted to their involvement in the killings in private discussions, as well as confessions made by Anthony and Gilbert Melendez. Also considered was the confession Deeb had made to the 2 young women about his involvement in the killings, as well as the life insurance policy he had taken out for his employee. Bite marks on the victims were also presented as evidence of Spence's involvement. The trials began in May with testimony from dental specialists supplementing the evidence that had been provided by the prison witnesses. In June, Anthony Melendez pled guilty to the crimes and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Spence's case was badly damaged by Melendez's confession, which played a key role in his eventual conviction in July of 1984. Unlike Melendez, Spence was sentenced to death for his involvement in the killings. In January of 1985, Gilbert Melendez also pled guilty to the murders and agreed to testify against Deeb. Like his brother, he received a term of life imprisonment in exchange for this confession. Deeb, who had continued to protest his innocence, was found guilty of instigating the murders, and on March 14th, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. Even 30 years later, the triple murder still haunts the citizens of Waco, Texas. Don Purvis shares his recollections.
How old were you when the murders happened?
It happened in 1982. That would make me 20.
What do you remember about the murders?
I remember that there was 3 kids from the Methodist home that were killed down at Caney Park is where we used to have our parties when I was a kid. That's where we'd always go to after the football games. So, I mean, it scared a lot of kids knowing that somebody could be killed down there where you used to party. It was kind of amazing that something like that would happen in Waco. Nobody would think that would happen in Waco.
What stood out to you the most?
Just the violent nature of what everybody was talking about, what happened, and nobody really knew what happened, but there was always what people said happened, and just all the hush-hush about what really happened, and still don't know to this day what really happened.
What difference, if any, did you notice from the city after the murders?
I didn't know anything from different from the city, but I mean, it did change the kids. We wouldn't go down to Caney Park by ourselves anymore for a while. We wouldn't have parties there. We changed where we used to go. But yeah, it was pretty amazing that something like that would happen here in Waco.
In your opinion, do you think the conviction was just?
I don't know everything there was about it, but yeah, he was part of what was going on.
As of 2012, 3 of the original defendants in the case have passed away. David Wayne Spence was executed in 1997. Gilbert Melendez died in prison in 1998 from AIDS-related complications. Munir Muhammad Deeb died of stomach cancer in 1999. Anthony Melendez remains in prison for his role in the killings, though he and his attorney continue to fight to obtain new DNA evidence in the case.